Hello, I'm Ranger Jackie. Welcome to Mammoth Cave National Park. I'm standing in front of the Old Gods Cemetery. This is just off the Heritage Trail, just a short walk from the Mammoth Cave Hotel. I'm actually just up the hill a few hundred yards from the historic entrance to Mammoth Cave. And the reason I'm here at this cemetery is to talk about one of the people that is laid to rest, a man named Stephen Bishop. There's also a wayside right here which talks about his story, but I want to spend just a few minutes sharing some of his life with you. In the 1800s, Mammoth Cave was already a famous tourist destination, but it was privately owned. And one of the former owners brought Stephen Bishop here to Mammoth Cave as an enslaved cave guide. Now, Stephen was just a teenager at the time, but he quickly took to the job, and shortly after he started guiding tours at Mammoth Cave, he proved that he was a very valuable cave explorer. He was the first person to actually find a way across the bottomless pit. This is a deep chasm, about 100 feet deep pit, and he was able to work his way across, and this opened up the opportunity to explore deeper into the cave, and Stephen made miles and miles of new discoveries. He was able to make his way all the way down to the underground river system in Mammoth Cave. And Stephen was able to get credit for these discoveries, and he was allowed to name many of these new passageways. As these new discoveries were being made, the popularity of Mammoth Cave grew, as did the reputation of Stephen. People would come from all over to visit Mammoth Cave, and when they got here, they were already told, make sure you request Stephen to be your guide. As these visitors would get back home from their journeys, sometimes weeks, months, almost years later, they would write in their local newspapers about their travels to Mammoth Cave. They would not only describe the cave system, but they would also rave about their guide Stephen. Many of these letters we have preserved in our archives, and it's amazing to read how these people talked about Stephen's intelligence, how he knew the science and the geology of the Mammoth Cave. They also talked about his humor and how pleasant he was to be around, how helpful he was. But two things that really stand out was how good of a cave explorer he was, and how much he could keep people safe and entertained in the cave. As his reputation grew, many people that maybe are well-known, famous today, actually stopped by and actually went on a cave tour with Stephen. Stephen took famous author and poet Ralph Waldo Emerson into the cave. He also took author Russell Lane Carpenter into the cave. Carpenter's original article is now at Harvard University, but Mr. Carpenter came here from England and published an essay on American slavery back in the 1800s of the United States. Mr. Carpenter traveled from north to south, visiting hundreds of towns, interviewing many people. He spent several days with famous abolitionist Frederick Douglass. And on his journey after that, as he moved through Kentucky, he was actually told to stop at Mammoth Cave and meet Stephen Bishop. And as he stayed here and talked with Stephen Bishop, he included this in his essay. And this is quoted, Mr. Carpenter: "The most intelligent slave I ever met was Stephen, the guide at Mammoth Cave." He went on to describe Stephen, his family, how he learned to read and write by working at Mammoth Cave and watching visitors write their names down, and he learned and then acquired geology books from his owners and was allowed to increase his knowledge of the cave system. We also have this very exciting account printed in a Philadelphia newspaper in the 1850s of Stephen taking his tour group down to the underground rivers at Mammoth Cave and would put them on a boat, and they would float quite a ways in the underground rivers. And on this occasion, the visitors started rocking the boat quite a bit and actually got it tipped over and it sunk. And back then, those lanterns, as soon as they got wet, they went out, so everybody's in complete darkness. And Stephen was telling everyone to come to his voice, to stand where he stood, to stay still, to don't go any further or they would get too deep in the water and they would drown. But he found a spot where he could stand and his head would be above the water. So in the darkness, in the pitch black, miles away from the outside surface, he tried to keep these people safe, because he knew that if he did not return on time, that they would send another person in to check on them. So he told them, we just have to be patient and wait and not get too cold in this water. And actually a few hours went by, but when the other guide went down to check on them, they said that they found the party, the group of visitors, with Stephen swimming around them, encouraging them that they would be rescued soon. And they touted him as a hero. As we continue the story with Stephen over the next 20 years, he's guiding tours, continuing to make new discoveries and explore the boundaries of Mammoth Cave. In 1856, he is given his freedom. But he doesn't leave the job. He continues guiding tours, he continues working at Mammoth Cave, but unfortunately, just a year after Stephen becomes a free man, in 1857, he passes away, and we still don't know the exact cause of his death. That is still a mystery. But we have found numerous articles printed all over the United States that the guide at Mammoth Cave, Stephen, has passed away. So it did make news. But what Stephen was actually able to accomplish over his lifetime at Mammoth Cave still has a lasting impact on us today at Mammoth Cave. We still tour and show many of the places that Stephen originally discovered. If you want to learn more about Stephen Bishop, please go to our website. We'll be listed right up here. If you get a chance to join us, take a short walk from the Mammoth Cave Hotel and say hi to Stephen. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you soon.